Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our very special conversation on tips to help empower your mind, body, and soul throughout the holiday season this year. My name is Lori Arena, and I am parish nurse at Holy Trinity Church in Westfield, New Jersey. Um, my role is a very multifaceted one, but one of my roles is to be a resource for people to help them achieve wellness through physical, mental, and spiritual means. Um, so, in conjunction with an organization called Imagine, we today are here to help empower you, your mind, your body, and your spirit to navigate through the holidays this year. Um, of course, we know this year is a most challenging one because of the COVID pandemic. And for some of us, we're already dealing with grief from loss of a loved one. So it's already a difficult one. And for many of us, we're grieving, our grievance is more of loss of some normalcy in our lives, um, and um, and loss of maybe not having loved ones with us throughout this holiday season. So we're dealing with grievances in our own way and some depression. Um, and no matter where we look, the TV, social media, what we listen to, people around us, everyone is talking about heading into the holidays this season and tips on how to deal with it. Well, our objective is to give you useful, applicable, and insightful ways to deal with depression and grief this holiday season. And we're going to do that by using visual aids and demonstrations um, and music and some a little bit of dance. Um, we'll also hear from two very special people and their insights and their views. Connie Palmer, who's a clinical training director of Imagine, and Father Anthony Randazzo, who is the pastor of Holy Trinity Church in Westfield, New Jersey. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Lori.
We're also going to hear from my favorite yoga instructor, Michelle Weintraub, who is a yoga instructor for over 20 years, and she will be demonstrating some breathing techniques for us. But I just wanted to briefly talk about Imagine for those of you who may not be familiar with the organization. It is a grief support system that is there for children and young adults and families to deal with death or life-altering illness of a parent, sibling, or child. And it's a program which fosters resiliency and emotional well-being for all those who grieve. Um, they conduct support groups, which are facilitated by adults and teenagers who have gone through a training program, and they're volunteers. Um, and Imagine has reached already over 285 people and 55 neighboring towns here in New Jersey. So it's pretty awesome. Um, Another amazing mission of Imagine is that they teach the community. So they reach out to agencies, to houses of worship, to schools to help them deal with children who may be going through a grieving process. I recently watched an interview with the founder of Mary Robinson, and I would love to quote her. She said, that if you see behavior changes in a child, knock on the door of that child's heart, find out what's going on in their lives and find out what type of a loss they're dealing with, because the loss could be loss of a loved one or loss due to divorce or death or illness, abandonment, and help that child get the support they need. So that was the words of Mary Robinson, who's been the founder of Imagine. Um, Another thing I wanted to just mention was another joint venture that we are doing this holiday season with the First United Methodist Church of Westfield, New Jersey, and it's called Blue Christmas. It'll be aired on Monday, December 21st, which is a winter solace, the longest night of the year. And it's normally conducted in person, and it is a service of remembrance and of hope. And the service involves reflection and music and prayer, and they offer support for all those who grieve or dealing with loss, or even someone going through some kind of transition or something difficult in their lives. So it will be a virtual event, and there will be a link at the end of this program. So please feel free to join in on December 21st for the Blue Christmas. With that being said, at the end of the program, there will be a resource page. It'll have our contact information and some links for the videos and for some help centers and contact information, and an area also, a type of survey where we'd love to hear from you and any comments or questions you would have for Father Anthony, Connie, or myself. So I'd like to start with my first question for Father Anthony and Connie. If you were to visualize something, if you were to ask a person to close their eyes and to think of a vision, a snapshot, so to speak, to help that person deal with depression or grief, or just help them through this most difficult time that they may be going through, what would that vision be? Either one.
Please, Connie, begin, please.
All right. Well, then you're going to get to go next the first time. You know, I think that so much of that depends on what's going to be a comfort to that person. So sometimes just, you know, asking them what's a time in your life when you felt comforted, or you felt at peace, or you felt supported and cared about and loved. And, you know, picturing something that connects to that. And I think that that may change over the years. What is true at one particular point in your life might be very different. Like right now, there's so much, as you so beautifully put it, Lori, that we're all dealing with. And I think all of us are just hungering for some comfort and some words of solace and some, you know, some lightheartedness. And I think we're going to be able to provide, you know, some of those things today. But when we first were planning this, and you raised this beautiful question, I shared a story. So Imagine is a secular organization, but I'm a member of the United Methodist Church that Lori just mentioned there in Westfield. And I would say about 5 or 6 years ago, I was going through a kind of a challenging time around Advent. And someone had given me this as a suggestion to imagine myself in the nativity scene. So I was just meditating on that, and in the which can happen by not my power, but the power of God guiding that and my imagining. I heard Mary call me to come closer, so I came closer. And I was feeling, you know, it's like, oh, I don't belong here, was how it felt. And she looked at me and she held the baby Jesus out to me for me to hold. And that moment of comfort I can still feel it in my body. That moment of comfort has stayed with me. So I took that image with me as I went through that Advent. I buckled Jesus into the imaginary car seat. I took, when I was shopping, he was there in the cart. And just that idea of holding our Savior, our Lord as a baby, it was such a beautiful, and still is a really beautiful, comforting experience. So that's the one that still resonates for me, especially at this time of year. But for some people, they may hear that and go, that doesn't work for me. So as I said, it's just what would be a comforting image for you? Yeah, would be I think that's just such a beautiful question for us all to think about. How about you, Father?
Love that.
Well, thank you, Connie, very much, and Lori for organizing the event. Connie, it's so apropos that you mentioned Mary. Today in the Catholic tradition is the feast of the Immaculate Conception. Very important for us in honoring Mary of Nazareth. And many people who came to the Eucharist this morning to participate, I honestly felt that they were seeking the comfort of Mary's presence by being at Eucharist. So your image is something so fitting for pandemic times, that maternal image, that image which is embracing, warmth giving, protective. That's a very fine image. And I too will kind of go into that in my own Advent journey. So thank you very much. Personally, for me, the imagery that, or the visioning that I would help a person with, if I could get them to close their eyes. I think in our times, it's very difficult for people to sit still, close their eyes, ground their feet to the ground, sit comfortably upright, and just let the time and the space be. But if I were to guide someone, I have two images from nature, and one image that I believe connects deeply with what dear Connie just shared with us on Mary. The first image or vision is of the Caribbean Sea, or the Caribbean Sea. For us here in New Jersey, we are people who are on the coastline, and we have the Atlantic. And any body of water, I seem to think that for now, the Caribbean, there's so many advertisements about going to the Caribbean and not being able to go. And there are these beautiful pictures of turquoise waters and aqua blue waters, and how people can see to the bottom, and how you can see the fluorescent fish when you're looking. For me, a primary vision that I like to help people with is that kind of water imagery of a beautiful, calming, natural sea. And nowadays on the internet, one can pull up all these adventures that people are going on who are sailing. Not a bad idea to take a look at some of that calming water. We are in a little bit of a storm, but there is calm when you look at it, the water. And for us here in New Jersey, not a bad idea to take a fast ride and at least get out of the car and look at the ocean. And that can be very calming. But if we can't do that, we can certainly do it within our mind and eye of the heart. The other imagery that connects with that is the sensation of water. I think for us who are blessed with having hot water, many people, hot, clean water, that wonderful imagery of the summertime, when we're able to go into water of some kind, when we're able to go into a refreshing lake, or into the waters of an ocean, or into a stream, and just be really comforted by the feeling of water. Any kind of water experience, that shower in the morning, to really appreciate and sense the shower in the morning as a comforting, warming beginning to the day. Thus, I would recommend that, or a bath, or whatever people prefer. But that encompassing water experience can be very comforting. And lastly, in connection with Connie, the embracing of the child Jesus, I love that understanding of God hugging us, that God is indeed the divine master of the hug. And at this time, we indeed are sensing that distancing, but maybe we could indeed embrace this image that God is wrapping God's incredible caress around us. And if that's not comforting enough, maybe we could just sense that God is placing God's loving hands upon our shoulders softly. and kindly and compassionately. Those are some of the images that work for me, particularly on a dark pandemic day.
Oh, I'm so relaxed right now. I could just envision myself standing by the ocean with God's arms on me, holding a baby. I just, sometimes when I try to relax and they tell you to close your eyes and be there in the moment, sometimes I find it so difficult to just block out everything around me. And when I close my eyes and I concentrate really hard, and sometimes I only see the inside of my eyelids. And I'm like, why is this? Why can't, and it's only through um, just trying to truly be there in the moment and breathing through it that I could actually do it. So thank you. Thank you both. With that being said, breathing techniques, I think a lot of this visualization and guided imagery and being there in the moment works hand in hand with breathing and breathing techniques. And it's not as easy as it sounds. And when I started practicing yoga about 10 years ago, I'd lie there and say, okay, this is not for me. I'm used to running and exercising, and I don't know what they're talking about. And it's only the past couple of years where I'm able to incorporate the breathing to the poses, and when I try and relax, it's only recently that I'm actually able to do that. So one person who helped me get there is Michelle Weintraub, and she will now demonstrate a couple of breathing techniques for us. So here's Michelle.
Hello. I am so honored to be able to give you some tools to guide you with some breathing techniques that can help you through difficult times, overwhelming times, even sometimes if having a difficult time sleeping or staying asleep, or managing tasks that become overwhelming during the holidays. Two kinds of breathing that come to mind for me are one which is called alternate nostril breathing, and I'll give you the technique for that, as well as Kapalabhati breath, which is a breath of fire. So in yoga, we use different techniques for different types of needs. The first one that I mentioned called Nadi Shodhanam, which is alternate nostril breathing. Anyone can practice, whether you're lying down, sitting up in a chair, or in a bed, wherever you may find yourself. To begin, you'll take your right hand, or your left if that's preferable to you, and you'll place it on the bridge of your nose. This helps to stimulate the center of your entire being, and what we're trying to do with this practice is join the right and left sides of our body and bring them both to meet up at the center, the third eye, or the intuitive space. So taking your right hand, you'll place it right here at the bridge of your nose, and you'll place your right thumb on your nostril, and either your right pinky finger or ring finger to the left nostril. The middle two fingers can either extend out or rest just lightly right here in between the brow space, and that helps to tap into your intuition and also bring on a center of balance. To begin, you'll take a full breath in through both nostrils, and then releasing both, exhale through both. Then you'll close off the left side with the left finger, and then inhale with the right side through the right nostril. Close the right with your thumb, pause, and then open up the left side and exhale through your left. Going back the other way, inhale through your left side. Close the left with those fingers and pause, and then open up the right side and exhale through your right. Once again, inhale through your right side. Close the right and pause, and then release the left side and exhale through your left. Let's do that again. Inhale through the left. Close left, pause, and exhale right. Inhale through the right side. Close the right side. And then exhale through your left. And then you continue this practice going back and forth, inhaling left, closing left, pause, and exhale through your right. And then inhale through the right, close the right, exhale left, inhale left, close left, and exhale right. When you're finished with your breathing, you'll relax your right hand down to your lap, keep your eyes closed, and then just breathe naturally through both nostrils. So this practice helps to, like I said, bring the right side and the left side back to a balanced state. And you may notice that, let's say you have a cold and one side of your nostrils, one side of the other side is congested. Without even blowing your nose, you might notice that the other side suddenly becomes congested and that original side becomes clear. It has nothing to do with blowing your nose. It has to do with all throughout your day, your body naturally switches from right to left. It's just happening automatically. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is breathe naturally through both sides as much as possible and evenly. The second type of breathing that is very helpful to relieve overwhelm or release any type of negative feelings or thought is called Kapalabhati, and that's a breath of fire. So for this kind of breathing, you want to sit nice and tall and have lots of space in the torso and in the lungs. You'll take a deep breath in, close your eyes, and then hold the breath and let your belly fill all the way up. So it's getting nice and large. You're filling up like you're filling a balloon. You keep pulling the breath all the way in. And then without inhaling, you do short exhalations out of your nose by gently pulling your belly button back to your spine like this. At the end of the last exhale, you keep exhaling, you take the navel all the way back, and then at the very, very end, tuck your chin, pull your belly back, and just make tight fists and squeeze everything out. And then when you're completely breathless, pause, and then release your fist, release your chin, release your belly, and take a breath in. And then exhale out. And then do it again. Inhale through your nose. Pause and let the belly fill all the way up. Try to keep your shoulders down. Try to keep your jaws relaxed. Fill up, fill up, fill up. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Close your eyes. And then sharp exhalations just from your nose. As the belly button does sharp exhalations all the way back. Go all the way. Tuck your tailbone in this time. Take your belly button all the way back. Continue to tuck your chin. Hold the breath out. Make tight fists. And then coming back, release your fists. Come back the way you came. Untuck your chin. Release your belly. Release your tailbone. Sit nice and tall. Let's do one more round together. Sit taller than you think you can. Take a deep breath in. Let everything out. One more time, fill up. Close your mouth and keep breathing in through your nose. Fill your belly all the way up like you've had a really big meal and you're full, completely full. Take it all the way. And then begin your sharp exhalations out of your nose. You can close your eyes. At the end of your last exhale, when you cannot take any more exhales, take the belly button all the way back. Tuck your chin. Tuck your tailbone under. Close your lips. Make tight fists. Keep squeezing every last bit out. And then when you are completely breathless and you need a breath, inhale, release, release, release. And then exhale. Thank you for joining me for some breathing techniques to help you through the holidays. I look forward to working with you again. Thank you.
So thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for those breathing techniques. As I said, it's taken me a long time to learn how to breathe effectively, and practice does make perfect. So as you always tell us in our classes, be gentle with yourself, be patient, and eventually breathing will help to relax your mind and to be there in the moment. So now back to Father Anthony and Connie. I have another question for you. This holiday season will certainly be a unique one for all of us and will bring many changes and a much different type of celebration. So, what advice can you offer to people who are dealing with depression or with grief to help them cope with this holiday season and with these changes?
Go ahead, Father.
You're first this time, Father.
Connie, that was, yes, I mean, this time of the year, even without pandemic, we would be also feeling grief and loss. Getting through the holidays for many people with the normal necessary losses that have touched people's lives. This is a difficult time, and it's amplified obviously by the pandemic. But the advice that I would give once again goes to the power of the brain and the heart. Recently have been reading something put out by the New York Times on brain health. And brain health, there's much that's going on, and our brain is being used all the time. It's not just being used 10% of the time. That's a myth. But this brain and this heart can help us through the emotional overload of grief or complex grief. So 3 little snippets that I would recommend or advise during this time. The first is that memory is powerful, and memory has a way of lodging into the soul. The memory of a fine Christmas experience, a Christmas experience that goes back perhaps to our childhood, or a Christmas experience that we had with our first boyfriend or girlfriend, a Christmas experience that is something so powerful that when we think of it, draws a little tear to our eye. When I think of Christmas experiences of years gone by, I think of my mother, my father, and my aunt and uncle who created such a Christmas banquet, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. If we can go back in our memory to those times with our ancestors who created at perhaps a time when we didn't have all this stuff going on in our lives, just sit and take that memory and be with it, and you will find comfort. The second little tip, and it's part of the time, the season, the night's sky, the starry night. We need to look up at what is perhaps the great image of the darkness, the dark sky, but there's stars in the sky. And maybe if we can't see the stars because of the ambient light in centers around here, we could see the light as it's reflected in so many Christmas lights. Take a look at the contrast between the dark sky and Christmas lights, and just stay with that a bit. We need that fusion of the darkness, and that inner darkness is of grief, but there's light too. There's light that comes from stars, and there's so much light that's created with Christmas lighting. Bring those two together and see it, and take a ride around town. There's a lot of lights out there. Take a ride and see the lights, and look up then at the dark sky. And lastly, and this is for our spiritual needs, and our spiritual needs are our emotional needs, there are human needs. It's very difficult to separate these terms, spiritual, emotional, human. They all, in one way or another, overlap. But the spiritual need that we have of always yearning for something more, yearning for God's presence, and we may indeed want to pray, but I'm recommending that we pray not only alone, that we meditate not just alone, that we really choose someone in our household to do it with, someone we are living with, and we create the ambiance to either meditate or pray with that person, to create the setting, to light the candle, to dim the light, to spend silence with another person, to create an interpersonal experience that's centered on drawing in divine presence. But don't do it alone. Do it with someone else. Those are 3 little tips that I would have for someone who's going through cacophony of grief and loss with the pandemic on top of all of that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I love every one of those. You know, when you were talking about the ocean before, what it reminds me of is the sense of rhythm that the ocean has. And one of the things that I've felt, and I don't know if anyone else who's listening or the 2 of you can relate to this, I feel like we're out of rhythm. I feel like this time, I remember when I was in college, I had to take music appreciation, well, maybe I wanted to, I don't remember, but I remember I ended up taking it. And we studied the music of John Cage, which is atonal and arrhythmic, and sometimes no music. Anyway, I remember how it was just so uncomfortable to listen to his music. And that's what this time reminds me of. Our normal holiday rhythms, they're not the same. Our normal, rhythms because of the pandemic are not the same. If you've lost a loved one, or if you're going through any other kind of loss, your rhythm is just not what it was. So whether it be going to the ocean or finding a rhythm in your day. So whatever that would be, what would be the rhythm? And for me, I have all these old Christmas CDs, and most of the time I listen to maybe 3 or 4 of them. But this year I've made this commitment that when my favorite time of day around Advent is exactly the time you were describing about that, when the sun is going down and you can see the silhouette of the trees, and it's just this, and I take a brief walk and then I come back and I listen to those Christmas CDs and I sit by the tree, and it's maybe 20 minutes, a half an hour total before I get busy with dinner and things like that. But for me, that's a rhythm that is kind of helping kind of create a sense of continuity in this time where everything feels out of rhythm. So that's the one, and I wouldn't have come up with that if you hadn't mentioned the ocean. The other thing that I know is that people who have not, ever had any mental health issues ever in their lives, many people are struggling with them like never before. So I think the timing and Lori's instinct that people are just needing this encouragement right now to look at how we can be healthy or healthier. So I think many of us are struggling, and if you've had mental health challenges in your life prior, they may be worse than they usually are. And if you've had a major loss, that adds a whole other layer of pain to that. So one of the things that I know is that the connection between mental health and grief is that sometimes major losses will cause us to have mental health problems, but most people get either depressed or anxious after a major loss because they push all their feelings down. They don't talk about them, they hide them, they run the opposite direction from their feelings, and their feelings follow us. We cannot outrun these feelings. So one of the things that I say to myself and I wish for others is to give yourself the gift of having all your feelings this holiday, and to have that for others. We have this pressure in our society to have a happy holiday. Well, if we could say that this holiday, we could have all our feelings. We could have, I've got some fear this holiday season. I don't know what's going to happen in the dark days as we head into January and February. Um, and I feel like if I can, wrap my head around just letting myself have that feeling and not having it be judged within myself, or other people have it worse, or any of the things we typically say to talk ourselves out of the feeling, but just let it be. And if you have somebody you can talk to those feelings with, maybe that same person you partner with that Father Anthony was mentioning, just to have that feeling check-in. And one of the things that's true is if you want to have that happy feeling, often we prevent ourselves, because if you push down sad and angry and scared, you're also going to push down happy. So when we can let ourselves have that full range of feelings, it's a real gift. So, and that includes remembering, this would, I guess, be my third one. And that includes actually incorporating the loss into your holiday celebrations. So we talk at Imagine about the elephant in the room, which is the thing that everyone knows is there, but no one wants to talk about. So after a major loss, even years after a major loss, it can still be the thing that shows up every year. You've got this pit of grief in your belly, in your soul, and it's hard and it's painful. And I find that if we could just, instead of trying to pretend the elephant isn't there, to say the elephant's here, the grief is here, and how can we incorporate it into, that's why we do this Blue Christmas celebration. It's saying, yeah, it's real. We have this incredible joy and hope and peace and love at this time of year, but we also have things in our lives that are hard, and we want to honor those too. So, there's all sorts of creative ways that you can find to do that. For example, my nephew died on Halloween, actually. And so for Thanksgiving, we lit a candle and just had it on the table as a way of just remembering him. So it could be something as simple as that, or going to the cemetery for those people who that feels like a connection, playing someone's favorite music, making their favorite food. So how can we be connected to that person, to our memories? And then, rather than trying to avoid those feelings, we just say, okay, it's here. And we're going to be intentional about, if we want to, incorporating that into our holiday celebrations. So that was my very long-winded thoughts, Lori.
No, I love it. I love it
Oh,
all.
can I just add something, Connie? Some years ago, a priest in the Archdiocese who's now in his mid-90s wrote a book called The Theology of Feelings. And in that text, what he was trying to do was validate all the feelings as having their foundation in how God created us. That God created us as feeling beings. And that through those feelings, how diverse they may be, we are to experience them thoroughly, fully, and never feel that those feelings are not right. Feelings, like you said, I think before, they're not right or wrong. They're to be felt. And the theology of feelings that Father Frank McNulty wrote about was grounded in the book of Genesis. That is to say that at the beginning, when God is creating the human creation, if you look at that text, you will see a lot of feeling there. There's a lot of feeling going on. There's shame and blame, but there's also a depth of how in the end God says that it's all very good. So in all of that has happened, and sometimes we forget that in all that you've said it could be uncomfortable, it's the elephant in the room, but in God's presence, it's all very good.
Beautiful. I may have to get that book. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Connie, I love your analogy of the rhythm. I think throughout all this, our rhythm has been so thrown off. And I think a lot of people feel like guilty, or they're not doing enough. they're depressed. This is not my normal life. And in reality, I think a lot of us have a lot more time. We're used to going and appointments and being there physically, but sometimes we have to be in the privacy of our own homes, and we're not able to do certain things that we've been able to do in person. So we have more time, and we're not used to giving ourselves that time. So Father Anthony, we spoke about learning a language at one time, and you said if you give yourself, what is it, 30 minutes a day?
Yes.
Just listen to a foreign language 30 minutes a day, you could learn that. I mean, you could do things that you've always wanted to do, but haven't had time to do. So, we could use this time and use it for something that is something may have been a dream of yours for many years. And so I want to learn how to speak fluent Italian.
Oh, wonderful. That's
No, but
wonderful.
because our rhythm is so turned around, and it's been, what, 7 or 8 months, and we're all still trying to get into that rhythm, but it's okay to just take it slow and just to have that downtime.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I'm inspired. I'm inspired by you wanting to learn Italian. And a friend of mine who never played piano before is learning piano now during the pandemic. And I don't have a piano, so I was like, but I've always wanted to play the harmonica. So last week I bought myself a harmonica.
Oh, that's great. That's great. We could put a little
and
band together.
And I blew on it a little bit, and I was like, okay, this is going to take some practice.
Oh, I love it.
But it makes me smile. The harmonica makes me smile. It's like there's just something about it. So
yes,
anyway, I love that idea of just finding, something new in this time. What would be something that could help guide our days?
Yeah, to fill the space with what we used to be able to do, And then when this is all over, look at all the new talents we'll have.
Yeah, well, you can sing in Italian and I'll play the harmonica.
Let me comment on that, Connie. I too had that ambition one time to play the harmonica.
Oh.
And it's like you say, you pick up something, and I didn't stay with it. I wish I had. However, some years ago, I was in Ireland. I picked up an Irish whistle. And that too, it's an instrument that you got to put the time into it. Yeah, so I think that people need to pick up something that they would not ordinarily do and go with it. In Italian, and I think this comes from Pope Francis. Just on December 1st, a book came out called Let Us Dream by Pope Francis. Let us dream. But the Italian is more beautiful. The Italian says, ritroviamo a sognare. I'll repeat that. Ritroviamo a sognare. Sognare. To find again the dream. In all of this time, we have to find again the dream. And if we could do some daydreaming, maybe that's another little PS. Do some healthy daydreaming.
Love that.
Very true. Love it. Maybe I'll be able to read his book in Italian one day. Well, thank you both so much. So now I'd like to share a beautiful montage of some imagery and some phrases and biblical passages. Some are from Connie that you had shared with me from your workshops, and just other visuals that I found. So please take some quiet time to yourself and watch this. The music that the montage is to is from Holy Trinity's very own music ministry, and the song is called Hold On to Love. They performed this virtually about 6 months ago, and it's beautiful. So I think this is a perfect video to put that music to. So sit back, practice your new breathing techniques, light a candle, have a hot cup of herbal tea with honey, and just quiet your mind and listen and observe and enjoy.
a season of gladness. Hold on to love. When pain and confusion seem endless, hold on to love. We cultivate healing through kindness. Hold on to love. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercy is overflowing. Hold on to love. When terror and fear overwhelm us, hold on to love. Courage and faith will sustain us. Hold on to love. When violence seeks to destroy us, hold on to love. Acts of compassion restore us. Hold on to love. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercy is overflowing. Hold on to love. When hatred is used to divide us, hold on to love. Wisdom and truth reunite us. Hold on to love. When prejudice poses as freedom, hold on to love. Dignity meets all welcome. Hold on to love. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercy is overflowing. Hold on to love.
So that is the conclusion of our mental healing presentation. Like I said, there'll be a resource page at the end that'll have some links, our contact info, the link to the Blue Christmas. Again, there'll be a little survey there. So we'd love to hear back from you if there's any workshops you'd like to see in the future, any webinars. We'd love to provide what you need from us. So please, we'd love the feedback. So if you could fill that out. But before I display that, I'd like to share with you this last song and dance. It'll be sure to lift your spirits. It's called Jerusalema, and it was created during the pandemic by a master DJ in South Africa. And it's upbeat and spiritual, and it's gone around the world. And it was done to help unite and to offer hope across the world. So push aside your coffee table because you'll need room. You'll definitely want to get up and dance to this. So enjoy and stay well, be safe, everyone. Merry Christmas. Thank you, Connie, so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I look forward to more in the future.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much, Lori. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. And thank you, Father Anthony. Thank you so much.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze